93 got that beat.
What's going on, family? It's your brother Lawrence here with another episode of Watch God Work. In every episode, we get the distinct pleasure and honor to speak to a brother or sister that's doing exceptional work in every field of human endeavor. And they share their God stories, the ways in which God has been at work in their life and the ways in which God has been at work through their work. Yo, today I'm excited, man, because we got a crooner in the house, man. We have a singer-songwriter, our brother, Brian Nhira. What's going on, King?
What up, Lawrence? How are you, my brother? Thank you so much for having me on today.
Man, I'm excited, man. I was just like, yo, we were chopping up. I was just like, Brian, cool like the other side of the pillow, man. Not just the, like he's a cool brother. But y'all have probably gotten to know our brother over the past 5 years, but even perhaps for many of you a lot sooner than that. On him on the world stage at The Voice. But I think it'd be doing a disservice to say that his story starts there. It starts much earlier. But I think what we've been able to appreciate is his voice, his talent, his perspective, him sharing of his life, his marriage, fatherhood, sharing about his vision for music, songwriting, his appreciation of culture. The every tongue and tribe picture of Revelation is every sound, every song that has been written for even from home Zimbabwe to our Spanish brothers and sisters throughout the world, Lord. I'm just so thankful that we have brothers and sisters who think about their work not belonging to them. And so I can't do any justice to my brother. And so I'm going to have him do more justice and kind of speak for himself. Who is Brian Nhira?
Yeah, man. So I always go back to 1989 when my dad came to the United States from Zimbabwe, Africa, in pursuit of educational opportunities, educational advancement. He came to Dallas, Texas, where he attended Christ for the Nations. And so he was there for 1 year. And then after that, he came to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he was accepted into Oral Roberts University. And at that point, my mom and my two older siblings were still back in Zimbabwe. And my mom was pastoring the church that my dad had left to come to America. And so my dad called my mom and said, I'm not coming back home. You're going to come to America. And so she brought my big brother and my sister to the United States. And then 2 years later, I was born in 1992. And we began traveling in ministry at the age of 2 years old. Actually, I was 4 years old when around 4 years old when we started traveling in ministry together as a family, all six of us, my three siblings and my mom and dad. And we were traveling in ministry for a little while, and then my parents are like, you guys need to do something. You can't just be sitting on the pew. And
you can't be out here just all appetite and no labor.
That's exactly right. And to keep us engaged, it was really good because it was smart of them because it kept us engaged and we didn't get bored of the process of traveling every single week. So we started singing. I was 4 years old when I started singing at a little church in Sand Springs, Oklahoma. And I sang Jesus Loves Me. That was the first song that I remember singing in front of people, and the pastor took an offering after. It was awesome.
You're like, no, I saw the power.
Yeah.
But to your point, man, you started early, and obviously I know this is not the beginning. There's still more, that you get sharing. But the fact that at such an early age, I mean, what was it, like 16 different places that y'all have traveled to, right? As a family. And so I can imagine, what was it like? How did just being a part of a family that lived that that, you know, I was like, is very itinerant ministry, as some would call it, right? You know, how did that affect your view on the work you needed to do, your view on the world? Like, you know, 'cause I can imagine that's for a child, that's just like, how do you make your friends? You know, so just give a picture like this. How did that affect just your view on the world, man?
It's the most beautiful upbringing I could have ever asked for, because I got to see the church in some lights. I got to see so many different people week to week, different expressions of worship. And I was able to, for me, it wasn't like I don't have any friends. It's like I have so many because I'm meeting all these different people at church we're going to. And so it was amazing. And it's really formed my view of culture and the world and the church, having the opportunity to have seen so many expressions. And I, you know, most of the churches were, you know, white churches. They were, we traveled a lot in the Assemblies of God church denomination. A lot of the churches that we went to, probably 85%, were Assemblies of God churches, and they were mostly like little white churches with maybe 10 to 15 people. You know, if there was 50 people, we were excited. Like, we were excited. My brothers and sisters and I were like, you know, had butterflies in our stomachs because we were going to sing 50 people. So that was, you know, my week to week growing up. And it really has helped me, just my perspective of the world and of the church. And, you know, even in the times that we're living in where, you know, there's a lot of, you know, we're really figuring out a lot of great things are happening in that. We're having to have the conversation about race, and we're having to have the conversation about, specifically within the church, and things that have been in the church that have contributed to some of the sin that's happened in our nation. From my perspective, I think the Lord has given me a grace to have the conversation with a lot of people, and both. I understand. I've been to both sides. You know, I've had that, and a lot of time, you know, just in a lot of different environments. That has. So it's really, really, really been special for me specifically.
I appreciate this piece, man, because I think people underestimate what I call cultural fluency. You know, and I think one of the byproducts of education, particularly if you have children in areas with just people of just different socioeconomic background, ethnicities, you know, culture, it's not just this painting on the cover, you know, type of thing. It's actually a really important formation of learning how to interact, understand different people. And so you see the world much bigger than at least your lens, because you have to get to understand. And so I just think this is a byproduct of education I think people undervalue, number one. But number two, to your point, it was forming for you, right? And so it's giving you a cultural fluency and perhaps even a desire to see or lean into this area of opportunity now in terms of where we are in the world, uncovering things that have been around for a long time, but people not wanting to have these conversations. I think this is, you know, I always think, because I think you kind of reframe the opportunities. It's like, no, it wasn't so much that I didn't have friends. I had many friends, right? You know, versus but how did you think about, I say sometimes when people think singer, songwriter, like as though that's a given. And I often have to think about the songwriting piece. Like you have to have like quiet space. You have to life is R&D. And so did you get how early was the sense that you wanted to put some thoughts together that you would express yourself? Were you singing songs that were original, you know, that you and your siblings came up with? Or was it because you were traveling, you had some time to think and write? Just where did that creative sense of, I want to actually pen to paper?
I think, you know, it happened. I was singing other people's songs for so long. I really just got tired of it. I got tired of singing the songs every week. I really, that was kind of the first, you know, provoking for me is I just got tired of it. I was like, I'm just tired of singing these people's songs. So, and I had something to, I felt like I had experiences that I could share. And so I just started trying. I just started trying to write songs and do anything I could to sing them and make them happen. And then it just became a dream to be able to write my own songs and release them into the world.
It gives you a sense of freedom, right? To your point, you're not waiting. You can create. And you could just sing and you could do all of that, which I think is dope. I think there are levels, I think many people understand I sing the recital singing, I sing with my family. We all have voices, but there's another thing to get to a point when you recognize I can make a living. Wow, this could be what I do. And so was that point, like, was the voice that point, or beforehand you felt you had an inkling from God that God was like, hey man, this is what I need you to do. So tell us through maybe a story or an instance where you kind of got a sense like, okay, this is real now.
Yeah, I think that, really in 2012 is when I was going into my sophomore year of college. That's when I felt the Lord call me into like artistry, call me into like being an artist or whatever you want to call it, someone who pursues music as a full-time occupation. And so that was when 2012 is when whenever I first began to step out and just put myself out there really. And at first, nobody was paying me. You know what I'm saying?
When you say nobody, are you talking from a digital perspective, or even from like you're on Oral Roberts campus and you out there singing, people ain't really stopping? Like what you mean?
Well, no, I mean people acknowledged my gift without a doubt, but it's just like nobody was like paying me to come and sing at that point at the beginning. Which was fine because I think it's very important just to gain that experience. Or you afforded me a lot of opportunities to do a lot of amazing things as an artist, singing my own songs in chapel. And then I got involved in my community significantly. I started working as a promotional assistant at the minor league baseball team in town. And I kind of became the de facto national anthem singer because when somebody did,
you were the artist in residence, man. You were the national anthem singer in residence.
Yeah, I would do seventh inning stretch, but my voice was getting out there, and I was meeting a lot of people, and then I would be invited to sing the national anthem at all these, what do they call it? The business association, whatever. I can't, the regional, the chamber of commerce, whatever they call it. But they would invite me out, and then galas, and then all these different. In these different environments, I was being asked to come and sing, and I was having the opportunity just to get exposure. And during simultaneously, I was releasing music, so I began releasing songs, and at first it was a lot of songs that would be considered like contemporary Christian music along that genre line. And so it was amazing. I had the opportunity. I attended a large church in Tulsa where often they would ask me to sing my songs, and so it was great having the opportunity just to sing those people. And then my senior year of high school, of college, I decided to do a funding campaign for an album. And so I had the bright idea to try and raise like $25,000 in 30 days. It was just during that time where everybody was doing Kickstarters, and I was like, oh, I can do this too, but we built. At that time, my brother wasn't working with me full time, but he was like doing a lot of consultation. But we built our own website because we were like, what's it called? What's the crowdfunding? Whatever the crowdfunding site was, took too much money, so we were like, oh, we can do this on our own. So we just built a website, and it didn't happen in 30 days, but we raised the money for the album, and I recorded the album right after I had gotten out of college, because I knew, I was like, when I was my senior year, all through college, I knew that music was what I wanted to do, and so just really, I was very intentional about doing everything I could to position myself to be able to do that when I graduated college. Like, I didn't do one resume. I was like, I'm not applying for one job. I am not like that. I don't even
Wow.
have job fairs, and teachers like, you can get extra credit if you go, see a couple employers. I was like, I don't really need that. I don't really.
Bro, this is I don't want to speed past this piece, man, because I think the even way you spoke about putting something out, there's like, one, having the courage to put the art out, number one. Number two, to actually have that, well, I'm saying that faith, for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah.
Of saying, I'm not, there's no plan B. Plan A is plan A or any. So, what was the conversation with God? Was it like you felt sophomore year that God kind of confirmed that, and then along the way, you're like, I'm going to do this? Because here's the thing. I think if you're coming from a context where, your family's in ministry, I think in many ways, for people understanding just this itinerant ministry, you really are dependent upon the Lord, right? To provide, to be for the generosity of people. So you're really, every morning, Lord, from whom I get my strength. That's kind of the dynamic you have. Was that kind of like it seemed natural? Like, all right, I want to do this. Yeah. God's gonna provide. Like, was it like that?
I'd seen my parents do it their whole lives. I've seen my whole life. I had seen my parents do it. I'd seen my parents just kind of live a life that was a little bit cultural, and that, my mom did work like a weekly job, but her focus was her heart's focus was on ministry, and my dad didn't work. His only job was the itinerant ministry. So I just always believed it was possible. It was never some big decision for me. It was just like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, this is, I'm not gonna get a job. I'm not gonna get a 9-to-5 job. I'm not even gonna waste my time even trying to think like that's gonna work for me, because it's not just the evangelistic heart that I had was, and very entrepreneurial, because evangelism is very entrepreneurial in nature. It really, to be a full-time itinerant evangelist it's very, very, very entrepreneurial in nature. And so I was just like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I feel like the Lord has called me to do this. So I'm gonna step out, and I'm gonna do this. And so when I graduated college, I was just like, any and everywhere somebody would let me come and sing, I would. But then I also was really blessed. I don't want to skip over the fact that I'm blessed whenever I graduated college, and it's just like it's watching God work. It's like where God gives the vision, He'll bring provision. He always will. What vision looked like was, there was a church in town that was like, hey, listen, all we want you to do, we want you to come twice a month. We want you to lead worship twice a month. All you have to do is come to rehearsal and show up on Sunday. That's it. That's all we want you to do. Because I was traveling and stuff as well. And so, that essentially, from that artist in residency, I was an artist in residence there. And I actually am again right now. I had the opportunity, that took care of my needs. That took care of my needs, which freed up and allowed me to like be an independent artist, because as an independent artist, I'm self-funded. Everything that we do, everything that anybody ever sees on the internet or whatever, like we pay for by ourselves. And so it enabled me and has given me the opportunity just to invest back into the business, into the ministry that God has called me to. And so that's what I did after college. I was I was leading worship at this church twice a month, traveling any and everywhere anybody would ever allow me to come and sing. And still really wasn't getting paid like that.
Yeah.
And then in the fall of 2014, we finished raising the $20,000. It started at 25,000. We were like, once I hit that 20,000, I was like, I think I can make it happen.
We're gonna make the stretch. We're gonna make it stretch. Yeah.
So we raised $20,000. At that point, 2014, my big brother Jasper quit his job. He was the manager of a couple of rent-a-car brands in our town, and so he quit his job and came on and began to work with me full time. And so we just made it happen. Finished the album, released the album in February of 2015. Within a couple weeks, I had The Voice emailed me and asked me if I had auditioned for The Voice one other time while I was still in college, and I did not make it. And so I was like, oh, I'm cool with that. That dream's done. I was just ready, do the hard way, whatever needed to be done, just whatever opportunities God opened up. But within a couple weeks of releasing the album, The Voice hit me up and said, hey, we would love for you to come and audition again. And so I went and I had a knowing in my spirit. I was like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it this time. I'm going to make it this time. I knew the mistakes that I had made the first time. And in my heart, I was like, I'm not going to make those mistakes. I'm going to go and just be myself. And I was it. And so I went and auditioned, and I ended up getting a call back in LA. So I went to Los Angeles and I did an executive audition, and then made it through there, and ultimately made it to the blind audition and made it onto the show. And yeah.
It's I love the like you said, it was kind of like it was step by step. And step by step of trusting kind of God along the way. I have to have this question because I think this kind of transitions a bit around, your view of what your career needed to be even before it really took off, right? So, for example, I think one of the things that is a really big, I think the past 5 to 10 years, I would say more so, but, the independent artist movements per se, right? Of, I don't need to work with a major. There's not as much dynamic. I don't necessarily like the economic model, And then there's also, so there's just kind of like the model. And then I like to say there's the message piece of it, right? Which is, because of the type of things I want to sing or because of things I want to perform, I want to have the creative freedom, right? How did you even think about just that, right? Around number one, the songs I'm singing. Number two, the type of way I want to do this business, which way was going to be longer, shorter, what was the conversation with you and Jasper about that kind of heading in as things were trying to pick up, kind of with The Voice and post that?
Yeah, man, I definitely think for me, I had always had an independent mindset, always. And I think that was very divine in nature to have that mindset. I'd always just been thinking like, I don't really want to sign with the major label. I don't really, and then I didn't really like my logic was that they take too much. They take too much. That was the logic that I had back then. But now understanding and seeing everything unveil the way that it has in the world, how the world of music has all this, that was the Lord. That was the Lord who had instilled that desire for, really ownership into my heart. And Jasper was very much the same way. Jasper was very much the same way. But I think his perspective was a purely business more than anything, and generational. He would always he would always say, you gotta look at 30, 40 years rather than just the next couple of years. You have to look. But he would always, talk to me about, you want catalog to be able to be given to your kids. Ultimately, that's what we're working for, is to build up catalog to have such value that it's, that it's so valuable that it takes care of them. And so, that was his logic. I didn't really understand that back then, but I was like, I believe it. All right. I was like, I'm down. It sounds good to me. But also, to be very honest, we weren't really getting any offers. There was no offers, which was fine. Which is fine. I mean, obviously, it hurts your feelings sometimes because it's like, you want to feel significant, and attention feels significant. But what I realize is that God, more than anything, and I know people say this all the time, but I truly believe that there was a hiding. There was a sense of what was happening, in this whole process. And even with the voice, my journey on the voice, the way that everything worked out on the voice, the way that I bowed out of the competition, and ultimately going into the voice, I knew I had been doing it for a little while, the whole journey, the independent journey. And so it was like, it hurt, but it didn't hurt too bad to where it like paralyzed me from moving forward. Still haven't released any music, and it's like 6 years later, which is a long time. But so I was really throughout the process of the voice, what we focused on, and I'm really grateful for Jasper because he allowed me to focus on it was bigger than just that moment, because we realized that they had already casted. I was on season 10. They had already casted season 11. They had already casted. They were already planning they were planning for me to be gone. They were already for me not to be on the show. They were already planning for it. And so we're just like, well, we need to plan too. We need to plan for, what's going to happen after. What's going to happen, when the voice is done. And it was amazing. The voice was it was an amazing experience. Amazing. There's not one bad thing I can say about my experience about on the voice. Not one. The only thing that I probably would have done different is maybe one song selection, which I put in my court. I should have, if I wanted a different song, I should have spoken up and gotten a different song. But that's fine. Ultimately what it allowed me to do, it allowed me to learn so much. And it did allow us to an extent, allowed us to go to another level. So there was another. Now when people hit me up, it was not like we could easily ask for money. We could easily be like,
there was no trepidation now. You're like, nah.
This is how much it costs. But it wasn't just the voice that we had to back us up. We had all the work we had done before to back us up. So then.
No. No. Continue, and then I'm gonna get back to this. You said something. But continue.
Absolutely. So then when I got off The Voice, there were some opportunities that we were pursuing that were really, really, really major, but didn't work out. And so, there was a period where I was like, oh, shoot, what am I doing? And then ultimately, when I kind of got out of that funk, it probably lasted a month or two. When I got out of that funk, I decided I went to Los Angeles. I had a couple songs that I had written that I was like, I just need to go and record. We need to release music. We hadn't released music at that point. It was the last thing I had released was the album. It's called Hope's Stand, and it was a Christian album. But I knew when I went on The Voice, I really felt a directive from the Lord that I wasn't going to go back into that genre. I wasn't going to go back specific, that I was going to move. Because I always had a bend in my heart towards writing songs about life, about love, I always had that in me. And I knew that was where I was going. And so I had some songs that I had written that were along that line. And so we went out and recorded 3 or 4 songs. And And the first song that we released was "Would You Still Love Me," and it was like,
banger. Yeah.
wow. So we released that song, and it immediately got traction and immediately started really touching people's lives. And you were talking about something. I think why it's important for me, independency is important for me, is truly because like my music, the power of my music is in the message. Like it's like that's where, to me, I believe that's where the secret sauce of my music, it's in the message. It's in it's in the lyrical content that I'm saying. It's in the
No, this is like I'm sitting on this because I've been sitting on this a bit, man, as you were speaking. I think that's what I think is different. I before we even talked on live, I was just saying that like I just find you as a creative translator. You're a translator. You're a singer-songwriter, but you're ultimately a translator. And here's what I mean. It's not just from a cultural, ethnic, language barrier. You're speaking to say, okay, how do I take this message, right? Anybody thinks about a message, all right, here's the core message. Here's the DNA. Here's the unit, the original unit structure. Now, I'm going to take this unit and I'm going to try to communicate it in as many different forms to reach as many different people as possible, right? And so it's not even just that you did that from, like I said, culturally, then even when you're thinking about it just genuinely around like, oh, I want to make songs for children, right? All right, I have a message, but something that help the parents, but these are also something that children could be soothed by, but it's actually communicating something too. It actually does something, has the power. And so you would think that everyone would take this view, but to your point, this is for you what's really, really critical and what's really important. I don't want to, this past year, I think the pandemic has really shifted a lot for people. And I won't say this past year, it's been more than that, right? So it's been some time, and this is evergreen. But you talk a bit about community and how community is so, you really wanted to double down to say, I really need to cultivate and strengthen the community. And so was part of that piece to say, let's translate message, but then what was the other piece of it? How did you say practically, I was going to now strengthen our community in this time that live is not necessarily going to be what's popping, even though you guys were already thinking about that even before things kind of flipped in. So like, how do you think about community practically?
Yeah, I think, specifically for the community that, allowed us to cultivate and steward and build. I think that people have just gravitated toward the narrative of my life. For me, I'm not like a super artsy person in the sense of like, how people, abstractly. I'm not super abstract. Like I don't have a lot of cryptic messages. You know what I'm saying? You know how some artists are like really, and I think it's really cool and I admire it a lot, where it's like, they're like very cryptic and cool.
I call it like the Prince effect. It's like the Prince effect, Purple Rain, you know what I mean? Like the Purple Rain, inaccessible. Yeah.
But for me, it's just like, this is it. Yeah, this is who I am. This is my life. And so for me, I think I've built a community off of my life experiences in my life, period. Just my life. Like every single stage, people see. People see, and it's translated through the music that I release. And so usually what I'm releasing is a picture of my life at the time. And for me, I'm grateful for this because I think it's like the only sustainable way for me. It's the only sustainable way for me to have, because I think that I'll be doing music for a very, very, very long time. And so it's like, this is the only way that I could see myself having something to say when I'm 70. Does that make sense?
Bam, run that, run it back.
This is the way. And so I was like, I really feel like this was like the the way that I'm doing it right now, the way that I'm doing music right now is the only way that I see myself being able to like truly do it when I'm that old. Because I still want to release music when I'm like when I'm 70. Because I feel like I'll have something to say when I'm 70. I feel like I'll have a wealth of knowledge that'll be able to draw upon when I'm 70 years old. And I pray that the Lord preserves my voice, to be able to say those things when I'm 70 years old and not just be like on a shelf, somewhere. But I think that, maybe I'll be singing about my grandkids. Maybe I'll be singing about like what it feels like to be closer to death than life. To be, I don't know. Shoot, like
this is so dope. I think Sean Carter, Jay-Z actually talked about this in the Bloomberg. It wasn't Bloomberg. It was a WSJ, some sort of interview at the Times, I think, actually, and it was talking about like not wanting to be a trend, right? He's like, I want to be like Ralph Lauren, and his view was essentially what he was talking about was just the timelessness of the art. That he's like, I'm not trying to just be I'm trying to say something, right? That is really, really vital. That's timeless. And I think to your point, I always talk about doing things that have not only that have intergenerational and eternal consequence, right?
Yes.
And so one, to the message that your brother was kind of titrating, let's say, into the mix on top of your mind. I think this is such I think even for people who are listening and are watching, this is such a valuable way of thinking, because I think I think with the reality of work life, you're so caught up sometimes to the day to day, and sometimes your view and your need for the daily manna is real. Like I can only think today. I need to figure out how to survive today. But to your point, your whole framework about this, like you should think about it, like, we don't talk about like how many even from a hip hop cultural perspective, how many people in other genres are able to still work that Beatles catalog or the Rolling Stone, or the people, they're able to work the catalog. But it's not just a view about the catalog. My view is just saying, you still have something to say if the art and the artistry is still there, as your demographic is growing with you, right? So I think this is tremendous. I think it's a very divine way of thinking about things, because I was just like, well, if God is still giving me this gift and I'm still here, then I would want to still make sure that I'm saying and using the gift while I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. That's that. I mean, it's really that simple for me. I think that I just want to be, I just want to be available whenever I'm that age. I want to be available to be able to say something, to be able to influence the generations that are behind me, at that age and even now, and hopefully, paint a picture that, because, at that point, my love story, may have, 15, 20 more years left, Sonia and I's, at that point. And so I think we'll have a lot to say. I believe we'll have a lot to say at that point. I believe we will. And so for me, that's why my career has taken the trajectory that it has, because I think that God has set us up, number one, for ownership. And I think number two, he set us up to be here for a very, very, very long time. And for some people, that looked like going through a major label. For me, it's just that opportunity, that door has never opened. But I will never let that lack of opportunity hold me back from doing what God has called me to do. And hold me back. I'm not of that mindset that's like, I don't live my life waiting for like somebody to come get me. I don't live my life waiting for some major label.
Say it again.
Well, for somebody to even acknowledge me. Acknowledgement is fantastic. Acknowledgement is, and affirmation, it's fantastic. But the ultimate acknowledgement is is like, is the consumer saying, I love is that's the ultimate acknowledgement. That's the ultimate acknowledgement for me. The ultimate acknowledgement is like this interview is you thinking I am like, my music has made enough impact for you to have me on your show. The ultimate acknowledgement is like, 2 weeks ago, I surprised a bride and she almost fainted. Because I'm working, we're doing a lot of weddings right now, a lot of weddings, and surprising, like so many surprise weddings and things. And that's the ultimate affirmation for me. That's the ultimate is like normal people, quote unquote, normal people who aren't positions of executive power saying, I love your music enough to like make you one of the like most expensive things at my wedding, to make you one of the, to take the time to, have my team reach out to book an interview with you. That to me it's the ultimate affirmation, and always helps me realize that we're on the right track, that we're heading in the right direction.
Bro, bro, our brother's spitting, man. This is pure truth, man. Wow. Always you think about this even when you talk about the technology industry, right? I lived in Silicon Valley, went to business school out there, familiar, and a lot of times there's this dynamic, and you'd hear where a company would raise a lot of money. They get all the articles, it's early, and raised a lot of money. And I remember there started to be a conversation, which was the counterbalance, to say it's great to get that industry affirmation, right? But there's others who were kind of like, in our case, we didn't want or seek to raise the money, because raising the money is one thing, but actually building a profitable business is another, right? And that's validated by the consumer of your product. So you could raise money, and we've known a number of stories who people raised a lot of money and they're out of business because there wasn't a market there. And to your what you're saying is effectively saying, like, at the end of the day, those who receive, those who kind of affirm, that is the ultimate, right? I want this message to reach people. And you married, I would say, like, I love weddings is the funnest thing I enjoy ever doing is weddings. But to your point, it's like, but that's timeless. They will always remember that moment, and that message, the voice will always. So man, bro, you're my brother for real on this, man. In terms of your vibe, because I think it's a good model. Because I think people will see this and start to shift their mindset towards this. I have to ask this before we as we close, but I'm grateful to have a big family, and all of us entrepreneurial. My dad's entrepreneur, mom, like everyone, we kind of came from that. How do you navigate working with your siblings?
That's the bro, and to be very honest, it's like it's a journey, man. It's been a journey.
That was a nice way of saying it.
In some seasons we've done well, and some seasons we haven't done so well. I think it's the best it's been. And one of the reasons is because I think we live in two different states. To be very honest, like, to be transparent, I think that, because for a long time we were living in the same house, there was no separation. And so, but I think that it's very, very, it's hard, but it's so rewarding. And I always know there's not one moment that I've ever questioned Jasper's integrity. I don't even have, that's not even something that I had to think about. I don't even have to think about whether Jasper has my best interest in mind, because really the incentive for him not to is not really high. There's not much incentive for him not to have pure motives. You know what I'm saying? Especially at the beginning, there wasn't very, very much incentive. And, to this day, the sacrifices that we're making because of what God has put in our hearts is so great that I don't question his motives. I don't question it. It's literally like, it's just kind of that sentiment of, if you want to know who's really down with you, like, have no money. Like, who will be around when you don't have any money, when you don't have any this and that. Jasper as he's proved that. He has proved that, like, he's there. And so I'm very excited about what God is ushering us into, and I know and what He's built and the foundation that He's built really almost the last 10 years. It's kind of crazy, that we've been doing it this long, and it still feels like all it feels like we've done is build a foundation. Like it literally feels like that, Lawrence. Like it just feels like I don't even feel like the skyscraper that we see. I don't even think like we built that. I only think that we have laid the foundation. Literally. That's how I literally feel like all that you've seen, it only feels like a foundation. But it feels like a very firm one. It feels like a very, very, very firm foundation. The processes that we've built, the opportunities, the things like the opportunities that we have stewarded, opportunities of growth that we've stewarded. And, just I think it's leading us to the place that we want to be. We'll always be on the journey towards, like something. But I really feel like, this season it's been very formative for us. And, Jasper's just been amazing. It's been amazing, over the last year and a half. We've all learned new skills that allow us to be better in business. And like Jasper has learned how to do videography. I've learned how to edit. My little sister has learned how to learn how to color film. And she also does a lot of writing. She's a part of my creative team.
Nah, I peeped that, man. And I thought she was doing the creative joint. I saw on the last one. I was just like, oh, sick. That's a fan. Yeah. All hands.
So working with family, but specifically my big brother, it's been rewarding. It has not been easy. It has not been easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it's been extremely, extremely, extremely rewarding.
Oh, that's
I wouldn't have it any other way. And I'm at the point where I'm like resolved to like work with them for the rest of my life.
Oh.
Where I'm like because other people have wanted to come in and do their thing and whatnot, but I'm at the point where like if you don't want Jasper involved, then sorry, you can't be a part of the team.
Man, this is a beautiful thing, man. I think it's a beautiful thing because I think sometimes there are great models, but I don't think we hear these stories enough when those of the same family decide to link up in mission, co-labor, and lock arms because the mission is much greater than anything that they could have done individually. I think that's
100%.
Bro,
that's exactly right.
You overstand. It's a redemptive narrative, but it's the narrative that y'all are living, and I think that is a refreshing thing, brother. Man, like man, these conversations, man, this is an ongoing conversation with you, man, because I just think. For me, it's how you're thinking about it. Beyond the voice, right? I think the voice in and of itself, your voice is a gift. But I think as much as the voice, what precedes the voice is your thinking on the world, which I think is refreshing. And the thinking on the content and that being living. Because here's the thing that grieves me the most. I think, I'm not one of those people who call like barbershop talk, where everybody's like era was always better than the current era, right? You always think about like, oh, nah. Because even when you say you're born in 92, clearly I knew that, but I'm like, oh man, you missed the greatest decade, man, the 80s, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I feel, right? Like that's me and your brother, this is how we feel, right? 80s babies is the best, right? Music similarly. Yeah. But I'd say that even today, the gifting is just as present as it's always been. The question is our timetable, our interval, it's kind of like our desire for quick. We're putting out content, we're putting out the quantity, but the timelessness. So sometimes we're not even getting the best of even all of the talent that's out because so much of it has been chopped up. It's like, again, I'm not one who's criticizing. I think that a lot of creative.
Yeah, 100%, bro.
But you get it.
100%. Yeah, because seriously, it's like, you listen to a lot of stuff, and I ask myself a lot is like, will this be able to, stand the test of time? Will this be able to be sung? Will this be able to be sung, 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Will this still be played? And that's my goal. Will we always hit it? Probably not, because as an artist, I don't want to be afraid to release as well. I don't want to be afraid to, like, if I like something, I want to release it. I want to release it to the world, and not be self-conscious about, like, do they like it? I want to if I like something, if I feel like the messaging is in line with the mission and the vision, then, I don't want to be afraid, but, also being very cognizant of the fact of being true to, like, who I am, being true to the message and the values that I carry within me, so you're exactly right.
Bro, man, this has been so refreshing, man. Like I'm excited about what's ahead for, you as an individual, you as a man, you as a father, he's a husband before that, obviously. But you as a creative that is contributing to the ecosystem of the world, of what people hear, what people see. And it is a global mission that you're on. And I think that's something that we all should see, man. Brother, for those who are kind of continue to kind of gather and be a part of the community who supports this mission, what do you have that's coming up, and how do people best connect with you, man?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure when this will be released, but we have a new single coming out called All Right on June 16th. It'll be released. Single and music video. Okay. They'll be released on the 16th. Got another single coming out in July. And yeah, man, we're always creating, man. Always creating, always releasing. Always love putting out the wedding videos. Got a bunch of wedding videos that are coming. And so yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Bruh, I think this is absolutely dope, man. Everything that you're doing. And how best do people connect with you? How do best connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me on all social media at Brian Nhira. Any social media you're looking for, just search at Brian Nhira, or put in my name, Brian, last name N as in Nancy, Hira, and you'll find me there.
Yo, I think it's immigrant children. I don't know if it's just us. We always know how to phonetically speak. As an apple D as a Yo,
you've been on enough.
Yes. My brother, yo, I'm so thankful, man, for that you shared this time, you shared your story, that you shared a picture, the vision of your ministry, that you share intentional pieces of your family, your life, that you share timeless moments, intergenerational, eternal moments with people through voice, through presence. Man, I'm just thankful for everything that you're doing, brother. And, I think that those who will hear this and see this will be inspired. I think it'll shift even how they think about their work, how they think about what they say, how they think about what they create. That now is a very fleeting thing. But timelessness, I think, is what we were made for. We were made for eternity in more ways than one. And so, my brother, salute to you. All respect to you, man. Yo, man, I'm gonna holler at you, man. If we overlap in Nashville or any place, man. But again, thank you again for sharing this time. All right, salute.
Peace, dude, bro. All right, man.
Peace.